35 years, that's how long I spent on my knees scrubbing other people's floors to get what they wanted to take from me in one afternoon. 35 years cleaning bathrooms that weren't mine, polishing furniture in houses where I was never invited to sit, breathing chemicals that burned my throat, all to have a place of my own before I died. And when I finally achieved it, when I finally held the keys to my apartment in my trembling, worn-out hands, my own family decided I didn't deserve it. Before continuing, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments where you're listening from and how old you are. It was Friday, September 8th, 2023, exactly at 4:17 in the afternoon, when I signed the purchase papers for the apartment at Attorney Fernandez Notary Office at 2341 Libertor Avenue, 3rd floor. I remember every detail of that moment because it was the happiest day of my life. The apartment cost exactly $187,500. Every cent came from my savings. Every bill carried the smell of bleach, of pine disinfectant, of the sweat from my brow. Attorney Fernandez, a woman of about 50 with gold-framed glasses and a navy blue suit, looked at me with a warm smile when I stamped my signature on the last document. My hands trembled so much I could barely hold the pen. I was 72 years old then. 72 years of life, 35 of them dedicated to cleaning houses for families who barely remembered my name. I was Roberto Castillo, a man who had come from the countryside to the city at 17, without education, with nothing more than the strength in my arms and the will to work. "Congratulations, Mr. Roberto," she said, extending her hand. "You are now officially the owner of apartment 3B at 456 San Martin Street." That night, after receiving the keys, I went to the apartment. It was empty. Of course, the beige ceramic floor gleamed under the fluorescent light from the hallway. It was cold. It was September and winter was beginning to show itself. I closed the door behind me and stood in the middle of the empty living room. The silence was absolute. I could hear my own breathing, my heartbeat. I sat on the floor in a corner and cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in decades. The apartment was small, 85 square meters distributed in 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a narrow kitchen, and a living dining room that opened onto a tiny balcony overlooking the street. But it was mine. The walls were mine. The ceiling was mine. No one could ever evict me again. I cried for my wife Marta, who had died 12 years earlier without seeing this day. I cried for all the years on my knees. I cried for the humiliations, for the times they treated me like furniture, for the back pains that never went away. But above all, I cried with happiness, because I had done it. Against all odds, Roberto Castillo, the son of poor farmers, the man who never finished elementary school, had his own apartment in the city. My son Andres came to visit me 2 days later. It was Sunday, September 10th, around noon. I was cleaning the apartment windows when I heard the doorbell. Andres was 46 years old, an accountant at an import company, a man in a suit and tie, slicked back hair, shiny shoes, nothing like his father, the house cleaner. "Dad," he greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Congratulations on the apartment." He carried a bouquet of flowers in one hand and in the other, a cream cake from an expensive bakery. Details that seemed strange coming from him. Andres wasn't one for affectionate gestures. Our relationship had always been distant, cold. He was ashamed of me, though he never said it in words. I could see it in how he introduced me to his friends as my father. He's retired now without ever mentioning what I had done for a living. We sat in the white plastic chairs, the kind you buy at hardware stores for $8.99 each. The cake remained on the table between us. Andres looked around with an expression I couldn't interpret. His eyes swept over the bare walls, the ceiling with its simple lamp, the floor still not completely clean. "It doesn't matter, Dad. I came to see your achievement." "Thank you, son," I said, letting him in. "I don't have furniture yet. I barely bought a table and 2 plastic chairs." "For me, it's perfect," I responded. "It's what I need. 2 bedrooms, 1 for me and 1 for when people come to visit." Andres nodded, but said nothing about visiting. We cut the cake in silence. He ate without much enthusiasm, checking his phone every few minutes. "It's cozy," he finally said, but his tone was flat, without conviction. Of course, son. How much did it cost you? Dad, he said after a while. Can I ask you something? Yes. $187,500. The question took me off guard. The apartment? Andres whistled softly. That's a lot of money. Yes, of course. It's just that, he stopped, as if searching for the right words. It's a lot of apartment for one person. It's everything I saved in my life. I felt something cold run down my spine. What do you mean? I didn't want a studio. I wanted space. I wanted to be able to receive visitors. Nothing, Dad. Just that it has 2 bedrooms, and you're alone. You could have bought something smaller, cheaper. A studio, for example. Andres left his fork on the plate with a metallic sound. Okay, Dad. I was just thinking out loud. I have friends, I lied. The truth was, I didn't have many friends. I had worked so much for so many years that I never had time to cultivate deep friendships. What visitors, Dad? His tone was now more direct, almost cutting. Mom died years ago. You don't have living siblings. I have my own house. But I knew it wasn't just that. There was something in his tone, in the way he looked at the apartment, something that disturbed me. He left half an hour later with excuses of pending work. He didn't mention bringing his wife, Patricia, or my grandson, Sebastian, 23 years old, to see the apartment. The following days were pure happiness. I bought second-hand furniture, a brown fabric sofa, worn but comfortable, $125. A queen bed with mattress included $220. A small television, $89. A wooden dining table with 4 chairs, $180. Everything modest, everything within my budget. I had some money left in the bank, about $12,000 that I kept for medical emergencies and future expenses. I decorated the apartment with photos of Marta, with memories of our years together. I hung cream-colored curtains on the windows. I bought plants for the balcony. Every night I sat on the sofa with a cup of tea and looked at my little kingdom. I was happy, happier than I had been in years. Patricia was a 42-year-old woman, thin with dyed blonde hair, and always made up as if going to a party. She wore a tight black dress, red high heels, and a designer purse that cost more than all my furniture combined. Her perfume was so strong it hit me when I opened the door. On Tuesday, September 26th, at 7:43 p.m., according to the kitchen clock, they rang the doorbell. It was Patricia, my daughter-in-law. Mr. Roberto, she greeted me with a wide smile, too wide. May I come in? Patricia, what a surprise. Of course, come in. She entered looking at everything with critical eyes. I saw how her nose wrinkled slightly at seeing my used furniture, my cheap curtains. Andres didn't tell me you had bought such a large apartment, she commented, dropping onto the sofa without being invited. It's not that large, I responded, sitting in one of the dining chairs. It's normal. For just you, I mean, it's big for one person. Patricia crossed her legs and leaned forward. Mr. Roberto, I came to talk to you about something important. There it was again, that phrase. It's what I need, I said, feeling a growing defensiveness in my chest. What? It's about Sebastian, my son, your grandson. Sebastian, my grandson. A boy I had seen few times in his life, because Andres and Patricia had never fostered our relationship. A kid who, when I saw him, treated me with indifference, as if I were a stranger. What about Sebastian? Yes, he's getting married in December to Daniela, a lovely girl. And, well, they need a place to live. He's about to get married. Did you know? I didn't know. No one had told me anything. No, I admitted, they hadn't told me. Mr. Roberto, you have 2 bedrooms here. It's a lot of space for just you. Sebastian and Daniela need a place. They're starting their life together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you asking me to give them my apartment? The cold I had felt days earlier returned, more intense, I see, and... No, of course not. But her smile became tenser. We just thought that maybe you could share it. Or perhaps make some arrangement. What kind of arrangement? Patricia settled into the sofa, her heels tapping the floor. Look, Mr. Roberto, you're elderly, 72 years old. How many more years are you going to live? Forgive me for being direct, but it's reality. This apartment is too much for you when you are no longer here. What's going to happen to it? It will be Andres's. He's my only son. Every word was like a dagger. Patricia, I said, trying to remain calm. This apartment is the result of 35 years of work. It's all I have. Exactly. So why not move things forward? Sebastian is the grandson. He's young. He needs his family's support. You already lived your life. You already worked. You already achieved what you wanted. Wouldn't it be beautiful to give your grandson the opportunity to start well? Helping is one thing. Giving away my home is another. And no one is going to take it from you, she responded quickly. We're just suggesting you think about it. Sebastian is family. Don't you want to help your family? Patricia sighed, as if I were a stubborn child. Mr. Roberto, don't be selfish. It's just an apartment. You can live with us, with Andres and me. We have space. I don't want to live with anyone. I want my own space. Fine. She stood up, smoothing her dress. Just think about it. Talk to Andres. You'll see it makes sense. She headed to the door, then turned around. Sebastian really needs it, Mr. Roberto, more than you do. And she left, leaving me alone with a knot in my stomach and a bitter taste in my mouth. During the following days, the calls began. Andres called me on Wednesday, then Thursday, then Patricia again on Friday. All with the same message wrapped in different words. The apartment was too much for me. Sebastian needed it. I was selfish. I had lived enough. It was time to think about the new generations. On Saturday, September 30th, Andres came in person. It was 11:20 in the morning. I know because I was watching the news when he rang the doorbell. This time he didn't bring flowers or cake. He only brought his serious face and a folder under his arm. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the sofa until 3 in the morning, looking at the walls of my apartment. Were they really greedy, or was I being paranoid? But the way Patricia had spoken, the coldness in her words, told me this wouldn't end here. This can't continue like this, he began without preamble. Dad, we need to talk. I let him in. He sat on the sofa with the folder on his lap. What can't? Your stubbornness, Patricia told me about her visit. You told her no. I told her this apartment is mine. I bought it with my money. I've seen him 5 times in the last 10 years. Andres, you never fostered us having a relationship. That's not true. Yes, Dad, but you have to understand. Sebastian needs help. He's your grandson. Don't you feel anything for him? It's completely true. You never invited me to his birthdays. You never called me for Christmas. You kept me away because you were ashamed of me. And what about my future? Andres clenched his jaw. I saw how his cheeks reddened. It's not time for dramas from the past. We're talking about the future, my son's future. You don't have much future left. The words came out like a shout. Andres stood up, pacing back and forth. Sorry, Dad, but it's the truth. You're 72 years old. Health problems. How much longer are you going to live? 5 years, 10 if you're lucky. Sebastian has his whole life ahead of him. I remained silent. Every word was a blow, but the worst was that they came from my own son. Look, continued Andres, calmer. I don't want to fight. I just want you to be reasonable. This apartment, he looked around with contempt, is modest. Nothing special. For you it's your palace, I understand. But objectively, it's small, old, in a regular neighborhood. For Sebastian, it would be perfect to start. Dad, please. Andres sat down again, this time closer to me. His voice softened. Think about legacy. What do you want them to say about you when you're gone? That you were a selfish old man who clung to an apartment, or that you were a generous grandfather who helped his grandson start his life? For me, it's also perfect. I want them to say I was a man who worked hard and managed to have something of his own. You already have it. You already achieved it. No one is taking that away from you. We're just asking you to share it with your family. He opened the folder. Inside were several papers. Look, I spoke with a lawyer. This is simple. You just have to sign here and here, transferring the property to Sebastian's name. You can continue living here if you want, or come live with us. But legally the apartment would be his. You want me to give away my apartment? No. The word came out firm. clear. Andres closed his eyes, breathed deeply. It's for your grandson, Dad. It's for the family. Do what? Dad, don't make me do this. Don't make me take legal measures. Don't make me prove that you're not in a condition to make decisions about properties of this value. The air stuck in my lungs. Are you threatening me? I'm perfectly fine. I'm protecting you from yourself. You're old, Dad. At your age, it's easy to argue that you're not in full mental capacity. Are you? Because behaving like this, clinging to an apartment when your grandson needs you, doesn't seem very rational. He left, leaving the papers on the table. Think about it. You have a week. Sign voluntarily, or we'll take other measures. When he closed the door, I was left staring at those papers as if they were poisonous snakes. I couldn't believe what had just happened. My own son had threatened me. My own family was attacking me. Grandpa Roberto, he said in a sweet, false voice, I know Dad and Mom are pressuring you. I want you to know I don't want to cause you problems, but I really need that apartment. Danielle and I don't have anywhere to live. Her parents can't help us. Mine can't either. You're our only hope. The following days were torture. The calls didn't stop. Patricia called me 3-4 times a day. She sent me long text messages explaining why I was selfish. Andres appeared without warning, always with the same arguments. Even Sebastian, the grandson I barely knew, called me one afternoon. And where do I live, Sebastian? Well, you can stay there too, or live with my parents. They said yes. There was a silence. Then his voice changed, became harder. Then you're selfish. Like they said, a selfish old man. I don't want to live with your parents. And he hung up. That night, I cried again, but not with happiness like the first night in the apartment. I cried with rage, with helplessness, with pain. Was this my family? Is this what I had worked so hard for? On Monday, October 9th, at 9:15 in the morning, I was making coffee when they knocked on the door insistently. It was Andres, Patricia, and Sebastian. All three together. Patricia wore a navy blue dress, Sebastian jeans and a white shirt, Andres his eternal gray suit. They formed a united front against me. Dad, we're going to solve this now, said Andres, entering without waiting for an invitation. The three sat in my living room as if it were a tribunal. I remained standing, feeling invaded in my own space. Mr. Roberto, began Patricia. We've been very patient, but time is up. Grandpa, added Sebastian. I'm getting married in 2 months. I need an answer. Andres took out the folder again. Sign, Dad. Sign, and we'll be done with this. I'm not going to sign. Patricia stood up, walking toward me. Do you know what happens to stubborn old people like you, Mr. Roberto? They end up alone, in nursing homes, without family to visit them. Is that what you want, to die alone? I prefer that to being robbed. No one is robbing you, shouted Andres. It's your family. Family doesn't do this. They were there for 2 hours in my apartment. 2 hours of constant pressure. They spoke to me at the same time. They surrounded me. Patricia cried dramatically about what a bad grandson she would have, how she would tell her friends that her father-in-law abandoned him. Andres talked about family responsibilities, about how disappointed he was in me. Sebastian alternated between pitiful pleas and hurtful comments. Family helps each other, intervened Sebastian. And you're not helping us. I knew you'd come to your senses, Dad. Okay, I finally said. The words came out of my mouth without being able to control them. I was exhausted. Physically and emotionally exhausted. Okay, I'll sign. The change in them was immediate. Patricia stopped crying. Andres smiled. Sebastian jumped. It's simple. You transfer ownership of the apartment to Sebastian Castillo Fernandez's name. You maintain the right to inhabit it until your death, or until you decide to leave voluntarily. Andres spread the papers on my dining table. There were 3 sheets, small letters, legal terms I barely understood. What do they say exactly? I asked. Something in his tone didn't convince me, but I was so tired, so infinitely tired. Of course, Dad, no one is going to evict you, and I can stay here? My hand trembled. The pen weighed like a stone. I looked at the papers. I looked at my son. my daughter-in-law, my grandson, their expectant faces, their eyes shining with poorly disguised greed. And I signed. Patricia put the pen in my hand. Sign here, Mr. Roberto, and here, and here. I signed Roberto Castillo in 3 different places. My signature, which had always been firm and clear, came out trembling, barely legible. Thank you, Grandpa, said Sebastian, but he didn't even look at me. He was already checking his phone. Perfect, said Andres, immediately collecting the papers. We have to take them to the registry tomorrow. Patricia gave me a kiss on the cheek that felt like ice. You did the right thing, Mr. Roberto. What had I done? The 3 left together, talking animatedly among themselves, making plans. I remained seated in my dining chair, looking at the space where the papers had been. The following days were strange. Andres stopped by my apartment on Tuesday to tell me the papers were already registered. The apartment now legally belonged to Sebastian. I had the right to inhabit it, but I was no longer the owner. It's the same, Dad, he assured me. You're still here. Nothing changes. But everything had changed. I felt it. The walls were no longer mine. The ceiling was no longer mine. I was a guest in the place I had bought with 35 years of my life. On Friday, October 20th, at 2:33 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was Sebastian with a girl I assumed was Daniela. She was pretty young, with dark hair to her shoulders and a kind smile. They carried measuring tapes, notebooks, a camera. Hi, Grandpa. We came to take measurements for the move. Move? My heart raced, but I live here. Yes, well, when we get married in December, we'll move here. We want to start planning how we'll arrange the furniture. Sebastian exchanged a glance with Daniela. Yes, of course. For now, but eventually, and you can, as long as you don't get in our way. The phrase was like a slap. Daniela laughed nervously, as if trying to soften the blow. They told me I could stay. What Sebas means is that we can coexist as family. This apartment has 2 bedrooms, I said. One is mine. Well, now they're ours, Sebastian corrected. The apartment is mine, Grandpa. You signed. They started measuring the rooms without asking my permission. They entered my room, moved my things, discussed where they would put their bed, their closet. Daniela suggested throwing out my old television and buying a new one. Sebastian talked about painting the walls a different color. We don't. This is too depressing. It needs life, color. I like this color, I said weakly. They stayed for 2 hours, measuring, planning, transforming my home into theirs. When they left, I sat on the sofa and looked around. I no longer felt at home. On Sunday, October 29th, Patricia came alone. It was 7 p.m. She brought a bottle of red wine and 2 glasses. Mr. Roberto, I came to celebrate and to talk. That soon we'll be a closer family. She poured 2 glasses without asking if I wanted any. Look, I know these months have been difficult, but we did the right thing. Sebastian needed this. Celebrate what? And me? There's something else I need to tell you, she continued. Sebastian and Daniela are moving in January, after the wedding and honeymoon, January 15th specifically. She drank from her glass. I didn't touch mine. Patricia sighed. You also needed to do this. You needed it for your soul, so you wouldn't be remembered as selfish. I thought in December, change of plans, but that's not what's important. What's important is that they'll need the complete apartment. What does that mean? The world stopped. They told me I could stay. It's in the papers. The papers say you can stay until you decide to leave voluntarily. Well, we need you to decide to leave voluntarily. Patricia put down her glass and looked me straight in the eyes. It means you can't continue here, Mr. Roberto. I'm not leaving my home. It's not your home. It's Sebastian's. And he needs space. They're a young couple. They're going to have children. They can't have an old man in the way. Where am I supposed to go? That's very expensive. Patricia smiled. It was a cold, calculated smile. Andres and I have been looking at residences for senior citizens. There's a very nice one on the outskirts. Golden Sunset Residences. It has gardens, activities, even a movie theater. $1,200 a month, all included. Andres and I would pay the first 6 months, then you can use your pension. My pension was $380 a month, not even close to $1,200, but I said nothing. The contract said I authorized my voluntary admission to the residence, and that I authorized Andres Castillo as my legal representative for medical and financial decisions. Here's the contract. Just sign, and we'll register you. You can enter January 1st right before Sebastian moves in. I'm not going to sign that. Patricia hardened her face. Mr. Roberto, don't be difficult. It's for your own good. I'm not going to a nursing home. It's a residence. Patricia collected the brochures abruptly. Fine, if you won't go voluntarily, we'll take you by force. January 15th, when Sebastian moves in, you're out of here, with or without your cooperation. I'm not going. We'll see, I said simply. She looked at me with surprise at my calmness, but said nothing more. She left, leaving me with the horrible certainty that they had deceived me. The papers I signed, which I had barely read because I trusted my son, probably had clauses I hadn't understood. They had set a trap for me, and I had fallen like an idiot. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I stayed awake thinking about everything, about how I had reached this point, about how the family I had trusted had betrayed me so completely. But something else was happening in my mind. A memory, a conversation I had had months earlier in July, when I was still gathering the last savings for the apartment. It was with Don Enrique, a man for whom I had worked cleaning his office for years. Don Enrique was a lawyer specialized in real estate and inheritance. We had become friends in a strange way through night conversations while I mopped and he worked late. Roberto, he had told me one night while reviewing some documents, if you ever buy a property, come see me. People take advantage of people like you who don't know the laws. The next day, Monday, at 9 in the morning, I called Don Enrique at his office. I had nodded without giving it much importance. But now, sitting on my sofa at 4 in the morning on October 30th, I remembered those words. Roberto, how are you? It's been a while since I heard from you. Don Enrique, I need your help. Something happened to me and I don't know what to do. I told him everything. The purchase of the apartment, the pressure from my family, the papers I signed, the eviction threats. I spoke non-stop for 20 minutes. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. Yes. Roberto, do you have a copy of the papers you signed? Come to my office today. At 3 p.m., bring the papers, and bring everything you have related to the original purchase of the apartment. How much are you going to charge me? Nothing, Roberto. You're my friend. And what they did to you, that's not right. At 3 p.m., I was in Don Enrique's office at 789 Montevideo Street, 5th floor. His secretary, an older woman named Elena, offered me coffee. The office was small but orderly, with shelves full of legal books and a dark wood desk covered with papers. Don Enrique was a 60-year-old man, gray hair, round glasses, always dressed in a vest and tie. He received me with a hug. Sit down, Roberto. Let's see what we have. I showed him everything. The original purchase documents for the apartment, the deeds, the papers I had signed, transferring the property to Sebastian. Don Enrique read them in silence, his frown deepening. This is terrible, Roberto. They completely deceived you. What do I do? Don Enrique took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Look, legally the apartment now belongs to your grandson. You signed a property transfer. But there's something interesting here. What? The habitation clause. It says you can stay until you decide to leave voluntarily or until your death. But there's also a phrase here, very small, that says subject to evaluation of property use compatibility. That's a trap clause. Basically, it means they can remove you if they argue that your presence prevents normal use of the property. And can they do that? They can try. They'd have to prove it in court. But yes, eventually, with a good lawyer, they could evict you. I felt sick, so I lost everything. Not necessarily. Don Enrique leaned forward. There's something your family doesn't know. What? That you're coming to see me before it's too late. Roberto, I can help you, but I need you to trust me, and I need you to do exactly what I tell you, without questioning. What do I have to do? Don Enrique smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone about to deliver justice. First, I need to ask you something. Do you really want to get revenge on them? Or do you just want to recover your apartment? I thought about that. I thought about the humiliations, the betrayal, how they had used me. I want them to pay for what they did. Good, because what I'm going to propose is radical, but it will be effective. Are you willing to do it? Asked Don Enrique. For the next 2 hours, Don Enrique explained his plan to me. It was complex, required perfect timing, and was completely legal. When he finished explaining, I sat in silence, processing everything. Then let's start today. Time is what we don't have. Yes, I responded without hesitation. I'm willing. Don Enrique's plan was brilliant in its simplicity. It was based on a technical detail that my family had overlooked in their rush to take the apartment. When I bought the apartment in September, I did so as a natural person. The apartment was in my name, Roberto Castillo. Identity card 1,847,392. The transfer papers I signed were also in my personal name, transferring to Sebastian Castillo Fernandez. But there was something Don Enrique knew and my family didn't. 2 weeks before signing the transfer, when Don Enrique and I had that conversation about protecting properties, he had suggested something I had done without thinking much about it. Roberto, open a sole proprietorship. It's simple, almost free, and it allows you to put properties in corporate name. It protects your assets from personal debts and from people who want to take advantage. I had followed his advice. On September 25th, 2023, 4 days before Patricia came to pressure me for the first time, I had registered a sole proprietorship called RC General Services Inc. I was the only owner, the president, everything. The company didn't do anything, had no employees, had no activity. It was just a legal shell. And on September 28th, the day before the family pressure began, I had transferred the apartment from my personal property to my company's property. All legal, all properly registered. So when I signed the papers on October 9th transferring the apartment to Sebastian, I was transferring something that was no longer legally mine. The apartment in Roberto Castillo's name, natural person, no longer existed. Now it belonged to RC General Services, Inc. The transfer I signed was invalid. You can't transfer what you don't own. But why didn't anyone detect it? I asked Don Enrique. Because the property registry has a delay. When your son and his cheap lawyer did the search, they saw the apartment was in your personal name. They didn't wait for it to update with the transfer to your company. They were hasty, greedy, careless. And now they're going to pay for it. Your company's, which is the same thing. You're the only owner, the only one with decision-making power. So the apartment is still mine? And what do we do now? Don Enrique drummed his fingers on his desk. Now we wait. We let them believe they won. We let them make plans, get their hopes up. And when they come with the moving truck, when they're sure of their victory, we show them the truth. Shouldn't we tell them now? No, because right now you've only signed invalid papers. They haven't done anything illegal yet. They've just been cruel and manipulative. But if we wait, if we let them advance, they'll make mistakes. They'll try to evict you legally. Maybe they'll try to sell the apartment. Every action they take based on their belief their owners will sink them deeper. Sounds risky. It is, but trust me, I've seen cases like this before. Greed makes people make mistakes. During November, I followed the plan. I acted defeated, resigned. When Andres came to visit me, I didn't protest. When Patricia talked to me about senior residences, I only nodded. When Sebastian and Daniela came to take measurements and make plans, I let them. On November 12th, Sebastian brought a real estate agent to the apartment, a man in a blue suit with a folder full of brochures. Grandpa, this is Carlos. He's an appraiser. He's going to evaluate the apartment. What for? Sebastian and the appraiser exchanged glances. It's just routine for insurance. The appraiser took photos, measured, wrote things down. I heard him tell Sebastian in a low voice, in this market, it could sell for $210,000. Maybe $215,000 if you paint it and make some improvements. But I knew the truth. Don Enrique had warned me this might happen. They're going to try to sell it. He had told me they're greedy, they're not going to live there. They're going to sell it and keep the money. Sebastian smiled. Perfect. After they left, I called Don Enrique. They're appraising it. They're going to sell it. Look, Mr. Roberto. This is the best one. Golden Sunset Residence. It has gardens, activities, even a movie theater, $1,200 a month. All included. On November 18th, Patricia came with brochures from 3 senior residences. Excellent. That's attempted fraud. Keep acting normal. Let them advance. It's very expensive. Andres and I would pay the first 6 months. Then you can use your pension. My pension was $380 a month, nowhere near $1,200. But I said nothing. Here's the contract. Just sign, and we'll register you. You can enter January 1st, right before Sebastian moves in. I'm not going to sign that. The contract said I authorized my voluntary admission to the residence, and that I authorized Andres Castillo as my legal representative for medical and financial decisions. Patricia hardened her face. Mr. Roberto, don't be difficult. It's for your own good. I'm not going to a nursing home. It's a residence. I'm not going. We'll see, I said simply. Patricia collected the brochures abruptly. Fine, if you won't go voluntarily, we'll take you by force. January 15th, when Sebastian moves in, you're out of here, with or without your cooperation. She left, leaving me with the horrible certainty that they had deceived me. But Don Enrique had prepared me. They're going to hurt you. They're going to lie to you. They're going to treat you like garbage. But every action is evidence. Keep everything. Record conversations if you can. When this is over, you'll want to have proof of how they treated you. She looked at me with surprise at my calmness, but said nothing more. I had been recording. My cell phone, which Andres had assumed I barely knew how to use, had a recording app that Don Enrique had taught me to use. I had hours of conversations, threats, manipulations, everything saved. Dear Mr. Roberto Castillo, on December 20th, I received a certified letter. It was from a law firm, Martinez and Associates. The letter said, by means of this letter and representing our client, Mr. Sebastian Castillo Fernandez, legal owner of the property located at 456 San Martin Street, Apartment 3B, we notify you that you must vacate the property no later than January 15, 2024. Your presence in the property constitutes an impediment to appropriate use of the property by our client. In case of not vacating voluntarily on the indicated date, we will proceed with corresponding legal actions, including request for forced eviction. Sincerely, Dr. Rafael Martinez. I immediately called Don Enrique. I got the eviction letter. Perfect. This is what we needed. They're acting as owners of a property that doesn't belong to them. That's the beginning of a lawsuit for attempted real estate fraud. What if they manage to throw me out before? What do I do? Nothing. Ignore it. Let them try to evict you. When they do, when they come with the police or judicial officers, that's when we reveal everything. The effect will be devastating. But I didn't feel completely alone. Don Enrique had invited me to his house, but I told him no. I needed to be here in my apartment, feeling every second of this betrayal to keep my resolution strong. Christmas came and went. No one from my family called me. I spent Christmas Eve alone in my apartment, eating roasted chicken I bought at the supermarket. Christmas movies were on TV. Happy families, reunions, love, everything I didn't have. They can't. The law protects tenants, even those with habitation rights. An eviction takes months. We have time. On January 2nd, 2024, Andres came with 2 large men. He didn't tell me who they were. I'm not going anywhere. Dad, these gentlemen are going to help you pack. You're moving on the 15th. Show me the judicial order. Andres blinked. What? Dad, enough. The apartment isn't yours. Sebastian is the owner. Legally, you have to leave. Don't be ridiculous. I don't need an order. This is family. If you want to evict me, you need a judicial order. Show it to me. You need an order. Andres looked at them furiously. Fine. Get out. We'll call you later. The large men looked at each other. One of them said, "Sir, if the tenant resists, we need legal documentation. We can't force a move without that." When they left, Andres pointed his finger at me. "You're going to regret this, Dad. I'm warning you." Roberto Castillo? Yes. On January 8th, early in the morning, they knocked on the door. It was 2 police officers and a judicial officer. I showed the officer my documents. I have habitation rights. It's in the transfer contract. We have an inspection order for the property. The owner, Sebastian Castillo Fernandez, alleges that you're occupying the property illegally. The officer read the papers. This is complicated. I need to consult with the judge. But for now I can't evict you. Behind the police appeared Sebastian, red with rage. The officer looked at him. "Sir, there are documents indicating habitation rights. This has to be resolved in court. I can't evict someone without a clear order. It's my apartment. He has to leave." "That may be, but the tenant also has documents. This is a civil matter, not criminal. You must go to court." "I have the deed. It's in my name." They left, leaving Sebastian screaming in the hallway. I heard how he called someone, probably his lawyer, shouting that the old man wouldn't leave, that he needed an immediate solution. "I'm ready." "Good. They're desperate." "Perfect. Now comes the best part. Are you ready?" I called Don Enrique. Police came with an inspection order. To the press. Tomorrow, January 9th, we're going to file 3 things simultaneously. A lawsuit against Sebastian for attempted real estate fraud. A lawsuit against Andres for pressure and manipulation of a senior citizen, and a request for nullification of the property transfer you signed. We're also going to leak this to the press. I know a journalist who loves these stories. Roberto, this isn't just about recovering your apartment. This is about justice. About exposing what greedy families do to their elderly. Your story can help others. On January 9th, Don Enrique and I appeared at the civil court at 8 in the morning. We carried boxes of documents, all the original purchase papers, my company documents, conversation recordings, copies of text message threats, the eviction letter from Sebastian's lawyer, everything. For 4 hours we were in court, while Don Enrique explained the case. The assigned judge was a woman of about 50, serious, with glasses. Her name was Judge Morales. "I want to file 3 lawsuits," Don Enrique told the court clerk. "This is a case of senior abuse," explained Don Enrique. "My client was pressured, threatened, and manipulated to sign documents transferring his only property. But additionally, the transfer is technically invalid because at the time of signing, he was no longer the personal owner of the property. The property belonged to his sole proprietorship." The judge reviewed all the documents. "This is unusual. Mr. Castillo, did you transfer the property to your company before signing the transfer to your grandson?" "Yes, Your Honor." I looked at Don Enrique. He nodded. "Because my lawyer advised me to protect my assets. I didn't know my family was going to pressure me. It was luck, or perhaps instinct." The judge almost smiled. "Luck or not, it effectively makes the subsequent transfer invalid. Mr. Castillo could not transfer what he no longer possessed personally." "Why?" "Exactly, Your Honor," said Don Enrique. "We request official nullification of the transfer, recognition of corporate property, and damages for the attempted illegal eviction." We left the courthouse into the bright midday sun. Don Enrique patted my back. "I'm going to admit the lawsuits. We'll notify the defendants. Mr. Castillo, for the moment you're legally protected. No one can evict you. That's it. Now the fun part begins." When they received the notifications, when they realized their whole plan collapsed. Fun? That afternoon the journalist Don Enrique knew. A man named Javier Soto from the newspaper The Citizen's Truth came to interview me. He carried a recorder and a notebook. "Tell me your story, Mr. Roberto." I told him everything, without omitting details. The pressure, the threats, the lies, the manipulation. Javier took notes furiously. "What if my family gets angry?" "This is gold," he said when I finished. "People need to know how entire families turn against their elderly for money. I'm going to publish it tomorrow on the front page. Let them get angry. The truth is the truth." On January 10th, 2024, the newspaper published the story. Front page. The headline read, Senor Ibu's family pressures 72-year-old man to steal his only patrimony. The article included photos of me, photos of the apartment, and even some of the transcripts of the recorded conversations. Patricia's phrases about how many more years are you going to live were quoted verbatim. Andre's threats about declaring me incompetent too. My phone exploded with calls. Andres called me screaming. What did you do, Dad? You publicly exposed us. Everyone is talking about this. I only told the truth. You made us look like monsters. You're the ones who acted like monsters. Go ahead. Everything I said is recorded. I have proof. You're going to pay for this. We're going to sue you for defamation. He hung up. Patricia called after, crying dramatically. Family doesn't do what you did. How could you do this to us, Mr. Roberto? We're family. He tried to ruin mine first. Sebastian is devastated. His friends are harassing him. His work is investigating him. You ruined his life. She also hung up. Sebastian's lawyer just called me. He's in a panic. He realized the apartment was never legally Sebastian's. He wants to negotiate. On January 11th, they received the judicial notifications. Don Enrique called me laughing. Sebastian didn't call, but I saw on social media that he had made his profile private after receiving hundreds of negative comments. He wants you to drop the lawsuits in exchange for them retracting the eviction attempt. Negotiate what? No. Are you sure? We could end this now. You're vengeful, Roberto. I like it. I want this to go all the way. I want a judge to officially declare they tried to defraud me. I want it on public record. The preliminary hearing was on January 25th. Andres, Patricia, Sebastian, and their lawyers sat on the other side of the room. They didn't look at me. The lawyer, Dr. Martinez, tried to argue that it had all been a family misunderstanding. Judge Morales interrupted him. An understanding based on documents your client didn't properly verify. Due diligence is the responsibility of the buyer, or in this case, the recipient of a transfer. Your client failed to verify. My client never tried to defraud anyone. He simply acted under the understanding that he was the legal owner. But, Your Honor, he acted in good faith. Dr. Martinez remained silent. Good faith? The judge raised a paper. I have here transcripts of conversations where your client's father, and your client's mother threaten, pressure, and manipulate Mr. Castillo. Is that good faith? I also have, continued the judge, evidence that they tried to sell the property. They brought an appraiser. That's not accidental. That's deliberate attempt to profit from a property obtained through deception. The judge ruled the property transfer signed on October 9th, 2023 is null and void. The apartment located at 456 San Martin Street, apartment 3B, legally belongs to RC General Services, Inc., sole proprietorship of Mr. Roberto Castillo. The defendants must pay court costs and are warned that any future attempt at harassment or manipulation will result in criminal charges. I looked at Sebastian. His face was pale, eyes fixed on the table. Patricia cried silently, and Andres clenched his jaw so hard I could see the veins in his neck. The gavel fell. I had won. Outside the courthouse, Andres caught up with me. He looked destroyed. Dad, please, we can fix this. There's nothing to fix. It was for Sebastian, for your grandson. We wanted to help him. You wanted my apartment. You weren't even going to live in it. You were going to sell it. Best for whom? For me? I worked 35 years for that apartment. Where were you when I was scrubbing floors? When my knees were bleeding? When I breathed chemicals that burned my lungs? Dad, Andres lowered his gaze. Patricia we thought it was for the best. You didn't even invite me to Sebastian's wedding. You erased me. You treated me like garbage. And now you want to fix things. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. But his apologies sounded hollow. The words were correct, but his eyes didn't show real remorse. They only showed rage at having lost. It's okay, Andres, I finally said. I feel sorry for you. Yes. Because you raised a son without values. Because you married a greedy woman. Because you lost the chance to have a real relationship with your father for $187,500. That's sad. For me? I walked away, leaving him standing in the street. January 15th was the day Sebastian was supposedly moving in. That day I stayed home, waiting. At 10 in the morning I heard noise in the hallway. Voices, sounds of boxes. I went out to the hallway. There were Sebastian and Daniela with a moving truck. They had furniture, boxes, everything ready to enter. "What are you doing?" I asked. Sebastian looked at me with pure hatred. "We're moving in. It's our apartment." "It's not. The judge ruled the transfer is null. You signed the papers. You gave it to us." The movers looked at the scene confused. One of them asked, "Do we go in or not?" I signed invalid papers. You can't transfer what you don't own. "You can't go in," I told them. "You have no legal right." Sebastian took out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "Go ahead. I have the judicial resolution here with me. The police will side with me." Daniela started crying. "What are we going to do, Sebas? We already left our previous apartment. We have nowhere to live." "You left your apartment?" I asked. "Yes, because we thought we were moving here. Now we have nothing." I felt not happy but satisfied. It was karma. It was justice. You should have thought about that before trying to rob an old man. Sebastian advanced toward me with his fist raised. The movers stopped him. "This old man ruined everything," Sebastian shouted. "Everything was perfect, and he ruined it." "You ruined it," I told him calmly. "You and your greed." "Sir, calm down. It's not worth it." They left. The moving truck backed up. Daniela cried inconsolably. Sebastian kicked the boxes. Patricia and Andres arrived later, but seeing the scene, they also left without saying a word. I remained alone in the building hallway. The neighbor from the apartment next door, an older lady named Doña Marta, came out. "Mr. Roberto, I heard everything. I'm glad you beat them." "Thank you, Doña Marta." I entered my apartment. I closed the door. I sat on my sofa. "That boy needed a lesson, and your son, too. Family isn't always blood, you know. Sometimes real family is those who respect us." And I cried. Not from sadness, not from joy. I cried because it was the end, because I had won but had lost my family in the process. Because my apartment was safe, but I was more alone than ever. The following days were strange. The newspaper story had generated attention. I received calls from television programs wanting to interview me. A news channel offered me $5,000 to appear in a special about senior abuse. I rejected most, but accepted 2 interviews on radio programs. In one of them, the host asked me, "Mr. Roberto, do you regret what you did, exposing your family?" "No." I responded without hesitation. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my family betrayed me. But I don't regret defending myself." "Have you spoken with them since the trial?" "No, and I don't expect to." "Would you forgive them if they came to ask for forgiveness?" I thought about that. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting them hurt me again. If they came with genuine remorse, I would listen, but I would never trust them again. The interviews generated more attention. I started receiving letters, people sharing similar stories. Elderly people who had been stripped of their properties by greedy relatives. Some had won their cases. Others hadn't, but all thanked me for speaking publicly. One letter particularly touched me. It was from a 75-year-old woman in a city in the interior. "Dear Mr. Roberto, I saw your interview on television. I cried because your story is my story. My daughters took my house, put me in a horrible nursing home, and divided my savings. I didn't have the luck of having a lawyer to help me. Now I live on $200 a month, and depending on charity, but your courage gave me hope. Thank you for showing us that the elderly can defend ourselves. Elsa Martinez." With affection. In February, Don Enrique visited me in the apartment. He brought an expensive bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "To celebrate properly," he said. I kept that letter and all the others. They reminded me why I had done this. We already celebrated. That was legal. This is personal. He poured the wine. Roberto, I'm proud of you. Not many men would have the courage to do what you did. It didn't feel like courage. It felt like survival. It's the same thing sometimes. He drank from his glass. What are you going to do now? What do you mean? With your life, with the apartment. Are you going to stay here forever? It's my home. I know, but it's a big house for a man alone. And I'm not pressuring you to leave, he added quickly. I'm just asking if you've thought about the future. I had thought about that. A lot. I don't want to die alone here. It's not the same as family. You're not going to die alone. You have friends. You have me. The family you had tried to rob you. Maybe it's time to find a new one. Don Enrique smiled. Life doesn't end at 72. My father is 84 and just started painting classes. He met a woman there, an 80-year-old widow. They're dating. At 72 years old. That made me laugh. I'm not ready to date anyone. I'm not telling you to date anyone. I'm telling you to live, to use this apartment you defended so much. Invite friends, have dinners. Join a senior club. Don't lock yourself up here living in anger. He was right. The apartment had been consuming my life. First working to buy it, then fighting to keep it. When was I really going to live in it? You're right, I admitted. We laughed. We drank wine. We talked about life, about the years, about regrets and victories. In March, I started making changes. Small ones at first. I joined a senior club at the neighborhood community center. Twice a week we played dominoes, cards. We talked. I met people. Some were widowers like me. Others simply sought company. I'm always right. I'm a lawyer. You know what I learned? He told me one afternoon while we played dominoes. That blood doesn't make family. Respect makes family. There was a man named Fernando, 74 years old, who had been a carpenter. We became friends. I told him my story, and he shared his. His son had abandoned him in a nursing home after emptying him of his savings. Fernando had escaped, and now lived on his pension in a rented room. I also met a woman named Rosa. She was 70 years old, widowed for 5, and had contagious energy. She was always organizing activities, always laughing. She reminded me of Marta in some ways. Mr. Roberto, she told me one day, you're too serious. You need to smile more. I don't have much to smile about. Don't you? You have health, you have your home, you have friends. That's more than many have. She was right. I started seeing my life differently. Yes, my family had betrayed me. Yes, I was alone in terms of relatives. But I had a roof, food, new friends, and above all, dignity. Mr. Roberto, excuse the hour, but my stove burned out and I have no way to cook. Could I? In April, something unexpected happened. Doña Marta, my neighbor, knocked on my door one night. Not at all. Come in. If it's not a bother, do you want to borrow my kitchen? We cooked together that night. Well, she cooked. I only helped chopping vegetables. We made a lentil stew with chorizo. The smell filled my entire apartment, a warm, homey smell. How long has it been since you cooked like this? She asked me. Since my wife died, 12 years. That's a long time to eat alone. I envy your courage, she told me, to face your family like that. We ate that stew together. We talked about life, about our dead spouses, about loneliness, about old age. Doña Marta was 73 years old, 2 more than me. She had been an elementary school teacher. She had 3 children, all living abroad. They called her once a month if she was lucky. It wasn't courage. It was necessity. It's the same thing. I could never do that. That's why my children treat me however they want, because they know I won't complain. It's never too late to complain. Doña Marta became a regular visitor. Not romantic, simply friendly. We cooked together 2-3 times a week. Sometimes we invited Fernando, Rosa, others from the club. My apartment, which had been empty and silent for months, now had life. In May, I received an unexpected call. It was a woman who identified herself as a social worker. Mr. Roberto, my name is Lucia Mendez. I work in the municipality in the senior citizen care department. I read about your case in the newspaper. I'd like to talk to you about something. About what? About giving talks. Education for senior citizens, about patrimony protection. We think your story could help others not fall into the same traps. I'm not a good speaker. You don't need to be. You just need to tell your story. After the talk, 5 people approached me telling their own stories of family abuse. An 80-year-old woman had signed papers she didn't understand and had lost her house. A 75-year-old man had been stripped of his savings by his own daughter. I accepted after thinking about it. The first talk was at a community center in front of about 30 elderly people. I was nervous. My hands trembled while I spoke, but when I started telling my story, something changed. I saw recognition in their eyes. I saw tears. I saw rage. I saw hope. I gave her Don Enrique's contact. Call this lawyer, tell him I recommended him. He helps people like us. How can I recover my house? Asked the woman. During the following months, I gave 8 more talks, each one with more attendance than the last. Don Enrique started receiving so many cases, he had to hire another lawyer to help him. It is, and it's important. Roberto, we're making a difference. It's a good title. You made me the lawyer for abused elderly, he told me jokingly. In July, something happened I didn't expect. I was giving a talk at a community center on the other side of the city when a woman stood up from the audience. It was Patricia. Mr. Roberto, she said with a trembling voice, may I speak? She looked different, thinner, paler. Without the heavy makeup from before, she wore jeans and a simple blouse, not the expensive dresses she used to wear. The room fell silent. Everyone knew my story. Many had read the articles. Go ahead, I said, though my heart was beating fast. I'm Patricia Fernandez de Castillo. I'm Mr. Roberto's daughter-in-law, the one who tried to take his apartment. Murmurs in the audience. I came because I need to apologize publicly. What I did was unforgivable. I manipulated, pressured, threatened. I did everything Mr. Roberto says in his talks, and I lost everything because of it. What did you lose? Someone from the audience asked. My marriage. Andres and I separated in April. He couldn't handle the public shame. He blamed me for everything. Sebastian doesn't talk to me. I lost my family trying to get money. Tears ran down her face. Mr. Roberto, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know I regret it. I truly regret it. Patricia, I finally said, regret is a first step, but forgiveness is earned with actions, not with words. I didn't know what to say. Everyone was looking at me, waiting for my response. I know that's why I'm here. I want to help. I want to tell my side of the story, how greed blinded me, how I destroyed my own family out of avarice. If it serves so others don't make the same mistake, I want to do it. Okay, I said, you can stay. You can share. I looked at Lucia, the social worker. She nodded. Patricia stayed. She told her story from her perspective, how she had convinced Andres that the apartment was wasted on me, how she had planned to sell it and use the money to buy a bigger house for them, how she had manipulated Sebastian, making him believe he deserved the apartment. I thought Mr. Roberto was old, that he didn't have much time left. I thought I was rushing the inevitable, but what I did was steal, plain and simple steal, and I deserve all the consequences. It was a powerful confession. Some people in the audience cried. Others nodded with recognition. After the talk, Patricia approached me. Thank you for letting me speak. Where's Andres? He left. He met another woman. Someone younger without the weight of shame. I don't blame him. And Sebastian? He lives with Daniela in a small rented apartment. He works double to pay the debts he accumulated when he thought he'd have the apartment. He's bitter. He blames me, blames you, blames everyone, except himself. Mr. Roberto, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but could we talk sometime? Have coffee? Not to be family again, just to, I don't know, to have peace. Sounds familiar, I said without humor. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no. I wanted to keep the distance, the protection. But another part, the part Don Enrique had awakened, knew that clinging to rage would only hurt me. We can talk, I said, but slowly. There's no rush. Patricia started coming to my talks regularly. She always shared her story, always from the side of the repentant perpetrator. It was effective. Seeing someone admit their mistakes publicly had an impact my words alone couldn't achieve. Thank you. It's more than I deserve. In August, Andres appeared at my apartment. It was late at night, almost 11. I was getting ready to sleep when he rang the doorbell. I opened cautiously. It was him, but different. Older somehow. He had bags under his eyes, disheveled hair, loose tie. "Dad, can I come in?" I let him in. He sat on the sofa, the same one where months earlier he had pressured me to sign those papers. "Because I need to talk to you. Please." "Why?" "I know, I saw it in a video on the internet." Andres rubbed his face. "Dad, I've been an idiot. A terrible idiot. Patricia told me you've been talking to her. She comes to my talks. She tells her story. Yes, you were. Patricia convinced me we were doing the right thing, that it was for Sebastian. But the truth is, I also wanted that money. I thought if Sebastian sold the apartment, he'd give me part. I thought about all the things I could buy. So it was greed. Yes. Pure greed. He looked up. I lost everything. Patricia left. Well, I left her. But still, Sebastian doesn't talk to me. He blames me for ruining his life. My job fired me because the public scandal affected the company's image. I'm alone, without work, without family. And you come here looking for what? Forgiveness? Money? I don't want your money. Not anymore. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I'm sorry for treating you like that. I'm sorry for being ashamed of you all my life. I'm sorry for not being the son you deserved. They were words I had waited years to hear, but now that I heard them, they felt empty. Too late. Too little. Andres, I appreciate your apologies. But the damage is done. I know. I can't forget how you treated me. The threats, the manipulation, trying to declare me incompetent. He left after an hour of difficult conversation. There was no hug. There was no hug reconciliation. Just two men acknowledging how broken their relationship was. I know, Dad. I don't expect you to forgive me. I wanted you to know I'm aware of what I did. That night, I wondered if I could ever truly forgive them. Patricia was making genuine efforts. Andres seemed remorseful. But was it enough? What do you think? I asked him. Don Enrique visited me the next day. I told him everything. I think forgiveness is personal. There's no right answer. But I'll tell you something my father taught me. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. To free yourself from the weight of anger. You don't have to decide now. Time will give you the answer. I'm not sure I can do it. Patricia asked to come. I thought about it a lot before saying yes. Andres didn't ask to come. I saw it as a sign of respect or shame. I wasn't sure which. In September, 1 year after buying the apartment, I organized a small celebration. I invited Doña Marta, Fernando, Rosa, Don Enrique, Lucia, the social worker, some people from my talks, 20 people total in my small living dining room. We all cooked together. There were empanadas, salads, roasted chicken, rice, wine, juices. My apartment was full of life, laughter, conversations. It was exactly what I had dreamed of when I bought this place. A house full of people I cared about and who cared about me. To Roberto, the man who taught us it's never too late to defend ourselves. That family is built, not just born into, and that home isn't just walls, it's dignity. During dinner, Don Enrique proposed a toast. Everyone raised their glasses. To Roberto. I felt overwhelmed, happy in a way I hadn't felt in decades. After dinner, Patricia approached me. Thank you for letting me come. How have you been? Surviving. I found work as a secretary. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest. I'm in therapy. Trying to understand why I became so greedy. And have you discovered anything? That I was always afraid of not having enough. I grew up poor. When I married Andres and we had money, I became obsessed with having more. It was never enough. And that obsession destroyed everything. Did you never become obsessed? You worked 35 years for this apartment. Money does that to people. It's not the same. I worked for security, not for greed. I wanted a roof. I didn't want a mansion. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone on my sofa. The apartment smelled of food, of perfumes, of life. There were dirty dishes in the kitchen. I would wash tomorrow. There were wine stains on the tablecloth. I would try to clean, but I didn't care. Patricia nodded. I wish I had learned that before. I looked at the walls of my apartment, the same walls I had defended so much. And I realized something. The apartment had stopped being just a place. It had become a symbol of resistance, of dignity, of not letting them walk all over you. In October, I had another talk. It was at a university, a bigger event than usual. 200 people in an auditorium, social work students, elderly people, families. But more importantly, it had become a real home. Not because of the walls or the furniture, but because of the people who now filled my life. I told my complete story, from the beginning, the hard work, buying the apartment, the betrayal, the struggle, the victory, 45 minutes speaking. When I finished, there was silence. Then applause. Applause that lasted 2 minutes. Mr. Roberto, if you could go back in time, would you change anything? During the question session, a young student raised his hand. Do you mean if I would have preferred not to buy the apartment and avoid all the conflict? Yes. No. I wouldn't change anything, because this conflict taught me who my family really was. It taught me my own strength. It taught me that at 72 years old I can still fight, and it gave me a purpose to help others in the same situation.